Greetings, everyone. I'm Ishita Srivastava from Tasveer. If you're new to our channel, Tasveer is an effort to make the reporting, processing, and redressal of cybercrimes of sensitive nature less tedious. Such crimes include revenge porn, upskirting, image-based sexual harassment, cyber flashing, etc. It uses awareness to remove the hesitant nature of victims of such crimes and provides them with protective measures against it. For this, it uses podcasts, interviews, and blogs with renowned experts from the field. Today, we welcome Mr. Sanjay Vashishtha, advocate who is a partner at Vashishtha Law Offices and a practicing attorney at the Supreme Court of India. Mr. Vashishtha specializes in criminal and commercial litigation. As on date, Mr. Vashishtha has been engaged by several high-profile entities and individuals, including Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan awardees. Mr. Vashishtha is a faculty to Delhi Police, Specialised Training Centre, Lloyd Law College, Noida, and has been a guest faculty at various institutions, including University of Oxford, Department of Criminology, Hindu College, Delhi University, NLU Delhi, NLU Lucknow, etc. He has also trained IPS officers and other officers from across the country. He is a member of the General Council of the Indian Police Foundation, member of the Expert Committee of the Government of India on Consumer Law Reforms, and a board member of the Board of Studies, Dr. Ambedkar University, Delhi, etc. Mr. Vashishtha has several key publications to his name and has published extensively for both national and international journals, including University of Oxford, London Redress, York University Law Journal, International Journal of Humanities and Social Science Journal of Indian Law Institute, and blogs at Live Law and Bar and Bench. We are extremely grateful to have you here, sir. We have a bunch of questions lined up. With your permission, should we begin with the questions?
Thank you for the kind introduction, Ishita. I think it's a good time to start.
All right, sir. Beginning with our first question, sir, you have written an article titled Enhancing the Police Legitimacy in India, the Need for Evidence-Based Policing and Policy Making to Police India. A prominent issue in tackling cybercrimes is the lack of awareness of the issue in general. Two researchers, Koziarski, J. and Lee, J.R. researched and published a paper titled Connecting Evidence-Based Policing and Cybercrime, where they concluded that the contribution of research and practitioners in the analysis of the police response to cybercrimes can have a positive impact on the capacity and legitimacy of law enforcement agencies to respond to crimes. Could you share some light on what is evidence-based policing and the role it might play tackling cybercrimes in present generation?
Right, that's a wonderful question, Ishita. I think you rightly pointed out that perhaps it's about time that we link cybercrime to evidence-based policing, because otherwise it seems that the perpetrators of cybercrime may be sitting at different geographical locations, and we may end up only facing geographical and jurisdictional barriers. But to begin answering this question, let me give you a brief insight into what is evidence-based policing. So, evidence-based policing, I think it's a concept which we have borrowed from medical jurisprudence, where I'm sure you have heard of medical jurisprudence where there is evidence-based medicine. You try and address certain causes and see how the patient responds to those medical treatments. Now, insofar as evidence-based policing is concerned, this is not like collection of evidence. We are not on evidence collection techniques. We are trying to find root causes of certain problems. And this is what we label evidence-based policing as, trying to ascertain root causes. Now, let me give you an example. There's a lot of jurisprudence on evidence-based policing, which would highlight a shift from triple R technique to a triple T technique, that is rapid response reactive investigation to target testing and tracking of crime. We would otherwise work on a policing model where we are waiting for something to happen and then we end up responding. But here the resources, the scarce state resources which are not available in abundance, has to be befitting of the situation, and we need to really target the real issues. Therefore, evidence-based policing also denotes a shift from the triple R technique, that is rapid response, to reactive investigation, to target testing and tracking of problems. We will try and preempt issues, tackle those issues before those issues really occur, and not otherwise we are only responding to the issue enough. I'm sure you can recall, during the early days in terms of information technology, I was pretty young. I think it was year 2000 when the DPS RK Puram, or I think one of the DPS had this issue where one obscene video of a student was, I think, was made viral by one of the students there, and we were all appalled. There was absolutely no law to deal with that situation, and I think that is what led to the enactment of the Information Technology Act 2000. Therefore, when you ask me, as to how to connect cyber law or cyber crime to evidence-based policing, we need to preempt issues. We need to understand how issues surface before they surface. We have a lot of examples, anecdotes from the West, from the global North. There is cyber hacking, there are revenge porn. I'm also working on so many matters where there is honey trapping now, which is altogether a different domain. Now we need to act, we need to educate individual citizens, stakeholders. We need to work with think tanks. We need to ensure that there is adequate policy framework beforehand, which understands and gets to the roots of these problems before the problems occur or have occurred on a lower scale. And it doesn't really transcend to a scale which basically, is a situation where citizens have already suffered at large. Therefore, to connect evidence-based policy making or policing to cyber crime in my world, it would mean that we have adequate law enforcement agencies with a dedicated team, like Delhi Police, for instance. I'm also a consultant to Delhi Police. I'm aware that Delhi Police has a cyber cell, it's called CyPad. And one is able to understand what trends are emerging in terms of cyber crimes, what global trends. I'm sure you might have also, Ishita, heard of cryptocurrencies related cyber crimes. Crypto coin mining and all. This has also been converted to a scam. Recently, there have been hackers who basically hack into cryptocurrencies. No matter how lesser regulated it is at the moment here in South Asia, but other jurisdictions and countries have better regulated it. They've already faced a lot of challenges with regards to cryptocurrencies. What I am suggesting is that we can get into a situation where we understand the problems which the other world is already facing about these issues, start addressing these issues at the starting point, because we know as a matter of fact that simply enacting laws does not deter crime. And we need to understand and also come up with scientific studies, scientific evidence-based studies where multidisciplinary, quests are undertaken by individuals, where individuals, experts from all disciplines come together, understand the problem, find a preventive solution and a preemptive solution. And I can give you a beautiful example, Ishita. In terms of evidence-based policing. Now, there are a lot of studies in England and Wales. Violent crimes inside bar, I'm sure bar brawls. There are nightclubs and bars. So there was a lot of violent crime, being reported from most of the clubs and at England and Wales. You would need police. Then you will have to prosecute the violent offenders, take them to the judicial institution. This would obviously cost a lot of taxpayers' money. There was an evidence-based study where several experts came together. And the beauty of it is that, one solution was devised, which is to distribute free chocolates inside bars after alcohol was consumed. What alcohol does is it decreases serotonin in the blood, hence increases aggression. And chocolate would balance it. And it was found out that simply by handing over a free chocolate, bar brawls and violent crimes had come down. This is one beautiful example of evidence-based policing, and we need to adopt this model to better address situations which are already pre-existing and upcoming situations. For instance, you might have also heard of ethical hackers. We need to regulate it, but ethical hackers have been doing a wonderful job when it comes to preempting issues pertaining to data privacy. I'm sure Air India case and Air India privacy matter is very renowned in that regard. So these are certain things I would highlight in terms of connecting cybercrime to evidence-based policing.
Right, sir. Thank you so much. I'll move on to my next question. The local application of law will only take place when it is in the public interest to prosecute. Yet many bulk cybercrimes such as minor internet-based frauds are individually regarded too minor in impact to be investigated by police and prosecution. Furthermore, the rules of evidence and criminal procedure are not standardized between countries. How does this impact the process of tackling crime internationally, considering this form of crime transcends borders and impacts digital devices and systems anywhere in the world?
That's again a wonderful question with a very beautiful scope, Ishita. It's a problem. I think all the jurisdictions in the world, across the world, are trying to deal with. You have a hacker or somebody, scamster sitting in hypothetical Somalia, sending you an email that you have won a lottery of $1 million, and to claim this $1 million, all you need to do is to transfer in 50,000 rupees. You can't apply logic, because victims are victims. You can't say no, victims should have applied their mind and argued that just deduct 50,000 from my 1 million. That is not how scams work. But the issue is a bit of a larger issue here. I'm not sure if you are aware, but there was an Interpol conference. It was held in India, Delhi, a few days back. Obviously we need law enforcement agencies to work closely. I am aware. I was in Britain. I was in London this June, and in terms of professional work, I learned that the European police, the EU police, had travelled to London. In fact, in a town called Oxford, where University of Oxford is situated, to arrest a cyber hacker who was stealing millions of euros worth of cyber crimes from cyber cryptocurrency wallets. Therefore, this is a fine example of several agencies coming together and working effectively so as to apprehend a hacker who was committing fraud in Europe but physically situated at Oxford in England. The issue that you have raised is about minor financial frauds, where the quantum of financial fraud is not massive, and what do you do about those victims? See, in all honesty, in my opinion, there are no minor or major fraud. Let's say if a lower middle class gentleman loses 20,000 rupees, that may very well define his entire month's salary or couple of months' salary for that matter, right? So it may be minor in terms of quantification, for people to comment. But for the individual, so I really think that let's not label anything as minor or a major fraud. Quantum is very variable and subjective. What I would instead say is that yes, we have specialized agencies. Again, manpower may or may not be a problem, and the way these agencies work may be very, very different and may differ from state to state and places to places, even in India. But we need to investigate, really look into these so-called minor financial or fiscal frauds so as to understand how they are originating. Because culminatively, these minor frauds become major at some point in time. Therefore, one needs to connect the dots and understand that most of these, because see, understand one thing, Ishita, the way I have understood the modus operandi in the minor frauds, most of these accounts are situated in India only. Because anyways, the banks and Paytms are not easily going to transfer money outside India. And they are quite traceable if an intention to that effect is shown. So I'm sure the police will never differentiate between a 500 rupees or a 5,000 or a 5 lakh rupees cyber fraud. Cyber fraud is a cyber fraud, no matter how less or more the amount is. the law enforcement agencies will have to really look into this. This is not in terms of amount, but in terms of the modus operandi as to what is being adopted by the offenders. And this is the only way forward. One has to effectively address the root causes again in terms of evidence-based criminology and evidence-based policing, even in the cyber world.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for answering this question in such a detailed manner. I would like to move on to my next question. The current criminal investigation system, law enforcement system includes the operational procedures, has been evolved to deal with traditional crimes. The same system is now being employed to deal with cyber crimes and cyber criminals. Is the present system supportive of the numerous cyber crimes taking place in the society?
Ishita, let me say this, that it's a question which assumes that the same procedural law is applicable to cyber crimes. But see, when we talk about the code of criminal procedure, it is only to have a uniform procedure when the accused is being investigated or is apprehended, and subsequently the trial is being conducted. But believe you me, the cyber cell experts, they don't have any rigid procedure in terms of investigation, because most of this is a digital crime. We have to seize computers and laptops. Yeah, I mean, frankly speaking, this condition of locating the hardware, if you ask me, because one has to contrast from hardware to software, and both are separate. And there seems to be a lot of arguments from the defense counsels. No, hardware has been seized, therefore this individual has not committed this offense, or the internet service provider's bill is on a different name and altogether a different thing. I think jurisprudence needs to evolve, that in such cyber offenses, you could be sitting in a McDonald's or a Third Wave or a Coffee Day, accessing their Wi-Fi while committing the offense. So the parameter and the barometer for conviction in such cases, it needs to evolve, and one needs to be sensitive towards the challenges which the law enforcement agencies face while investigating these offenses, and also understanding that obviously our experts are experts, but the cyber hackers and these so-called offenders are really smart and clever. You see this Chandrasekhar's matter, this person who is a conman, trying to shift jail time and again. He was into similar offenses, and no matter how many offenses, I mean, different sort of offenses, as you had at the outset highlighted, revenge porn, this, that, data privacy, data breach, stealing of data, this, that. We really need the procedural, safeguards to go down, and we need to really look into this as state-of-the-art offenses. And we need better laws. Obviously, the colonial laws and the procedures available at the time of the colonial, legacy cannot be adopted. IT Act 2000 is relatively the new millennium law, right? But it needs to be amended from time to time with the rules, of course.
All right, sir. I will move on to my next question. In a society where everything is transparent, people are unaware of what constitutes as an offense, especially relating to cyber crimes. Do you think the law is evolving along with the evolving crimes? What are the steps we, especially those who express themselves on social media, to make ourselves more informed? And does the law support this initiative?
Can you repeat the last part? Sorry.
I'll repeat my question again, sir.
Those who express on social media?
Basically, sir, we who are representing ourselves on social media, what are the steps we can take to make ourselves more informed? And does the law support this initiative?
Right. So, okay, the first part, what perhaps we can do. I think duty should be, the onus should be on the these service providers, to educate their users as to what potential cyber crimes are, to have ample safeguards at place. I'll tell you a recent crime which somebody had come up with, and I met the victim. So this gentleman received a video call from an unknown number, and the other side, on the video call, happened to be a lady, and some photographs in the screenshots of that conversation within a fraction of a second. This is like a 2-second call. The other person, the modus operandi is such that the lady would call in a situation where she's sitting in some sort of a place, in an isolated place without any clothes and all, and the other party will then, once the call is answered, the other person will appear in a small box, and it is about that time when the screenshots are taken. And this individual, now it would really help if WhatsApp or such platforms where calls are being made would not spontaneously turn the video on. Perhaps there should be a 4-5 second buffer from either of the sides, or there should be an option, because even on Zoom, as we turned on the link, my video automatically turned on without any prompt from my side. What I would suggest is that these companies are, they need to be very, very sensitive and develop such policy framework where these issues are looked into. Data privacy is not breached. Prior consent is sought, but it's somebody's privacy. Now imagine this video, the modus operandi is such that this video screenshot is then threatened to be shared with the family member in the world at large, that this individual is into these sort of, chattings and video chattings and all that, unless the money is paid. So I'm sure it's a brief answer, but I'm sure you get the point. The education needs to come from these people. I mean, you have youngsters using Instagram. I don't know what all is being posted. And not to, label any platform as such. Platforms do not control your data. We control our data. But we need to sensitize citizens. We need to understand how these, platforms work. And platforms, obviously, they need to be responsible. They need to understand that they need to devise policy frameworks so as to ensure that the data privacy of an individual, it's robust, it remains intact, and no such cyber offenses occur, at least with regards to their platform.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for your answer. I would like to move on to my next question. As a follow-up for the previous questions, what can educational institutes do to raise awareness about the crimes which are being committed on the cyberspace?
What can educational institutes do about educating individuals on crimes? I think all the educational institutes should do it. Not only law students, but students of humanities, social sciences, engineering. I think there should be a basic course now. See everything. I mean, this mobile phone has more data about me, my loved ones, my friends, and every professional institute I represent, my clients, than my files would keep at my office or elsewhere. Today, all that is required to be done is to have illegal access to this mobile device, and that's it. And this is same for everyone. So we are living in an era where government should also step in. I'm sure government is doing a good job. We hear so many radio ads and all, but it's never enough. And we need government to step in. We need responsible law enforcement agencies to step in. We need law enforcement agencies to devise friendly ways of educating. We need to ensure that there are policy frameworks which basically enables youth to report crimes. It should not deter individuals. Youth should feel confident. They should feel comfortable while reporting such cyber crimes. Because we have a lot of stigma, these offenses go unreported at times when it comes to crimes against women on cyberspace. So it would really help if we are really able to, address these issues. We have to really work on institutional legitimacy of the institutions of governance. We need to ensure that these institutions deliver. They ensure that citizens are made aware of all the possible crimes, such as phishing. You have such cyber attacks. You have revenge porn, as you had highlighted. You have financial scams. We have heard of Paytm related scams which are happening. There are ads. I'm so happy to hear such ads while driving or at times sitting somewhere. Fact of the matter remains that institutions will have to step up. And, otherwise also those who are not able to attend institutions, by virtue of their age or the fact that they may not have access to educational or normative institutions. Institutions such as news media, electronic and print media, radios, television shows, every platform should come forward, take this responsibility and address these issues. They have a potential of ruining lives in a fraction of a second. And we need to be sensitive toward these things, Ishita. And that is the only way forward.
All right, sir. I would like to move on to the last question of today's session. Any individual that uses the internet can be a target of cybercrime. In light of the damages caused by these crimes, which types of remedies may be ordered by a judicial authority, and till what extent can justice be ensured according to the present laws?
Oh, that's the last but a leading question, I suppose. But so far as this, the answer is quite elaborate. You always have a law right under tortious law. One could claim damages. Obviously, let's say there's a privacy breach by Air India. There is usually an end user license agreement where you sign up. That your data may this that certain conditions are imposed, but nobody signs up for a data breach. So if somebody, institution, company, MNC, limited, private limited, be as it may, if there is a privacy breach due to some sort of negligence on their BS, you can always claim damages in a court of competent jurisdiction that this has obviously violated one's privacy and therefore this breach. And so far as the quantum of damage is concerned, it depends from individual to individual. Penal law will obviously be applicable. If it's a revenge porn, if it's a obscene photo being transmitted, if it's something which has to do with child pornography for that matter, POCSO law is very clear. It bifurcates, law is very clear and settled. So far as children are concerned, POCSO, are you aware of the POCSO law? Protection of Children from Sexual Offences Act 2012. That also addresses issues pertaining to watching porn, to transmitting it for commercial purposes, etc. Therefore, law is very stringent. Criminal law in terms of children, it will come into effect and it's very stringent. In terms of adults, we have IT Act and the penal law, both are amalgamated in such situations. Therefore, all these remedies under the umbrella are equally applicable and are very, very, expeditious also and very sensitive.
All right, sir. Thank you so much for such descriptive answers and such elaborative answers. That marks the end of our interview today. Thank you so much for sparing your valuable time, sir. This was truly an eye-opening experience for me, and I'm sure our viewers as well. Thank you, and thank you all for watching.
Thank you, Ishita.
Thank you so much.